Your organizational culture matters more than strategy, according to management guru Peter Drucker. Culture guru Edgar Schein said, the only thing of real importance that leaders do is to create and manage culture. If you do not manage culture, it manages you, and you may not even be aware of the extent to which that is happening. If it is so important, why do so many suck at it? Here are 11 ways to show that you may be changing organizational culture ineffectively. Number 1, weak case for change at the org level. This means the culture change outcome has little or no link to strategy, or it does, but no one cares. In one company I worked with, they started with a list of 7 attributes or values that define the desired company culture. Good start, although it wasn't based on research, but a group's opinion. All right. The list of 7 values got some discussion in a few meetings and, of course, became the focus of posters plastered around corporate headquarters. And it got a few mentions by senior leaders in meetings. No one argued the virtue of the list, but no one paid attention to it because, well, the list had very little to do with the things the organization cared about. Have you seen the same? Of course, the quest to implement change based on 7 values died within months. To focus your cultural change, make sure it comes from senior leadership because they see culture change as absolutely essential to the results they care about. This may take time to establish, but unless there's a clear strategic reason and support the culture change requires from senior leadership, it won't create any results. Number 2, low or no personal ownership. Those who actively lead the culture change, your committed core of leaders, won't sustain change they don't personally see as meaningful. In addition to the organizational why, invite them to find a personal reason to lead the change. The reasons will vary. All that matters is that they have a personal why to lead the change. That brings us to number 3, vague value focus with no specific critical behaviors. When it comes to culture change, you hear words like accountable, team-oriented, digital transformation, collaboration, sense of urgency, and innovation as the outcomes. What's not to like? Well, these are vague values. Let's call them a good start, but unless you define them with specific behaviors, you will struggle to make change stick. For example, a culture change to drive more pervasive accountability got a big boost when leaders identified 3 behavioral indicators that show accountability in action. Behavior number 1 was, when there's a problem, issue, or expectation breakdown, I speak to the right person to better understand the cause. The shorthand label for this became the speak up. Behavior number 2 was, I make and follow up on my commitments and those I influence. The shorthand label for this behavior became the follow up. Behavior number 3 was, I implement fair consequences based on the behaviors I experience. This was a bit controversial, but let's face it, without consequences, there's no teeth in commitment gaps. We speak up, follow up, and if there's no course correction, someone needs to implement consequences. Or if there is course correction, reward the change. Everyone was encouraged to do this, and yes, it turned up the heat in a way that this company needed. The point is, clarity of critical behaviors at critical times made the change easier. We had something to measure, could focus our change on critical behavioral situations, and were able to change HR policy to better align with the intent when it's clear. Number 4, biting off more than you can chew. When a leadership team understands the importance of culture change and embraces the need to lead it, it's common to take on too much. Remember the list of 7 values we discussed previously? Instead, focus on 1. 3 questions can help. 1, which one is the most important to strategy? 2, which, if improved, would create the most residual benefits to the other values? And 3, which of the 7 attracts the most interest, passion, and for what reason? But narrow the focus. Change is not easy, and you'll bog down your efforts with poor focus. With one client, we had 3 key values that topped our list: sense of urgency, accountability, and cooperation. We chose accountability as the focus because the thinking was, If we have better conversations about accountability, that will improve urgency and we'll be more capable of aligning our work. They were right. Within 8 months of creating this focus, they were seeing measurable results in areas of performance that mattered. Number 5, approach it as a motivational challenge rather than an ability focus. It's easy to fall in the trap of thinking that your organization doesn't do something you want them to do because of lack of motivation. Low cooperation means they're snakes. Weak accountability means they're lazy, and so forth. This kind of thinking will work against you in 2 ways. First, you will gloss over the real work of understanding how we got here because you believe you already know. Second, the real work of change has much more to do with developing your ability to behave in new ways. Remember, ability. Motivation comes and goes, but a focus on ability provides much better results. Improve the skill, improves the will. Number 6, look at current state as a blame game. Every leadership team that is serious about culture change needs to spend time understanding what got them to the current state. That's no easy task because who wants to tell the truth to the person who controls your compensation? Or if you're an individual contributor, you certainly don't want to be seen as the problem. It takes some skill to draw out of your organization the truth about the causes that got us to where we are without it becoming a blame game. If you use consultants to ask people, you might miss subtle insights you can only get when you're with the people who are living in the current culture. So what can you do? Well, use senior leadership to run what got us here sessions and take multiple runs at it because trust is earned. The more senior leaders can hear hard things, make and keep commitments, the more people will open up about reality. And when they do, you're in a much better position to create a change plan that addresses the real issues. Number 7, your influence style is too passive, aggressive, or deceptive. You can't lead culture change as a bully, liar, or a nice person. You need to find a place of authentic power and create change with people rather than do so in a way that lacks influence. Same is true for liars. If you have a leader that misleads people, eventually they will lose trust and with it, their ability to influence. 8, unhealthy accountability. Healthy accountability is simple. People make commitments. We have conversation about those commitments. We course correct and eventually deliver on our commitments as a result of these conversations. Unhealthy accountability starts with unclear commitments, overreactions, such as punishing before pursuing the path of learning, and pushing people into defensiveness about their commitments rather than delivering on them. When it comes to culture change, we learn our way into new patterns of behavior. The more we practice unhealthy accountability, the more we push people into defensiveness that works against learning. It's a waste of energy. Number 9, unaligned leaders who don't make culture a priority over an extended period of time. It's not easy getting alignment with key leaders on culture change, especially if you don't involve them in design, planning, or course correction. But if you don't put in the work to engage key leaders in conversations about the why, what, and the now what, you won't get the buy-in you need to shift the culture. One company rolled out their culture change with an all-leadership meeting that included a full day of refining the focus and covering the why and creating a first draft plan for change management. The plan included periodic measurement and additional sessions to analyze the why and the now what. It takes time to engage leaders with something as important as culture change, but the investment will pay off with change that sticks. Number 10, no or little opinion leader engagement. Cultures shift when respected peers and leaders get on the same page. Elliot Rogers figured this after reviewing many studies about how change and innovation work with new drugs, products, cultural habits, and really any large-scale change. Adoption increases dramatically when respected peers and leaders embrace the change. If you spend your time trying to convince late adopters or others who lack influence on the rest of the population, you will miss the key group that matters most in moving a culture, the opinion leaders. How do you identify opinion leaders? Well, ask. Whose opinion do you listen to and respect when it comes to understanding or evaluating change, innovation, or anything new? Sometimes you hear the name of formal leaders, but especially of informal leaders or respected peers. They're usually not easily convinced, but if you spend time with them, you'll find that once they embrace cultural change, the water cooler conversation changes and they influence the rest of the population. Find out who the opinion leaders are and invest time with them to create change that sticks. And finally, number 11, there's no measurement, adjustment, or plan expansion. Finally, when you measure, involve key leaders in analyzing the results and identifying the next steps, you have a process for course correction. This process will either make or kill the culture change. A healthy measurement and adjustment process usually involves the following. Measurement around 6 months is a good pace for most organizations. Once a year doesn't draw enough tension to make real change, and in my experience, too frequent to take measurements can be a bit trivial. What do you do with a 6-month pulse check? Gather the right leaders, both formal and informal, to talk about the results, why we're seeing what we're seeing, and key actions that will move the needle. We keep or do more of what's working, change what isn't, and introduce other course corrections that will make the change stick. In summary, when it comes to culture change, if you don't do it wrong, you might do it right or at least more effectively. I shared 11 ways that limit results. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you in the next video.